Hi everyone, today this video will be in English. I purposely speak in English today because maybe some of our Malaysian Indian friends have a chance to come across my channel and maybe they will listen. I'm just trying to provide my 2 cents here, about the fact that is it really true that Indians have a harder time to rent houses or rent rooms in Malaysia? I have this idea to make this video because I've seen some discussion about this situation online. I've also seen one particular Chinese YouTube which is talking about this phenomenon, and then I would like to offer some different perspective about this. I'm not going to say things like, oh, we should not discriminate against the Indians. Yeah, we should be more politically correct. We should have a more open mind. We should filter tenants based on their quality, their moral characteristics, their blah blah blah, rather than based on a particular race. I mean, it's easy to say this kind of so-called popular, politically correct stuff. I mean, it's easy to say that, but it doesn't contribute anything. It doesn't contribute like in a constructive way. So I would like to talk about this in a more non-conventional way, okay? Okay, so first of all, I think we can recognize the fact that Indians are indeed being discriminated against in the rental market, and I would like to provide reasons why they are being discriminated. Okay, first of all, Indians are a small minority in Malaysia, so their market is very small, and so in a country like Malaysia where things are not so tolerant, not so liberal like other countries, so that's why Indians are being discriminated. So maybe one way Indians can do is they can get married earlier, they can have more babies, so that once their population ratio rises, then they will have a bigger bargaining power in the rental market. Okay, that's one thing that we can leave aside first, because I know that's also not a very practical suggestion, because right now Malaysia, all the policies are mainly favored toward other races and not Indians. So Indians don't really have that much economic resources to have a very high birth rate, etc. Plus, Indians also migrate to other countries as well. So it's not a practical advice. Okay. So basically, why Indians are being discriminated against? I think it's a statistical discrimination, because we need to look at this from a commercial perspective. Okay, first of all, right, the Malays can never be discriminated against because they are the dominant race in Malaysia, and their market is the biggest market in Malaysia. So nobody dares to discriminate against the Malays. And I mean, let's say if you don't want to rent to Malays, that is fine, because there are many Malay landlords who are only willing to rent to Muslim only or Malay only tenants. So basically, it's impossible that the Malay tenants will get discriminated against. Also, a lot of those Chinese-run property agent companies, they want a share of the Malay market, so they will have special housing units. They are specifically allocated, just like only can rent to the Malays, and then other housing units only rent to the Chinese. And so that's why the Indians are being left out, because the Indians market is just too small to focus on. Because let's say, right, if you have a particular housing unit that you say, okay, we only rent to Indians, then you have a risk of, you have the risk of not finding Indian tenants to fill up the vacancy easily. Then your property unit is not being fully maximized. And then another thing is that, right, once you rent this particular unit to some Indians, then when you have empty rooms, it's very difficult to rent to the bigger Malay market or to the Chinese market. So maybe from a purely commercial perspective, some property agent companies, they just give up on the Indian market, or they place a lot of restrictions for the Indian tenants, like you must come home earlier or whatever, etc. I mean, I'm saying all this based on my interactions with the property agents in KL, because last time I tried to find rooms to rent, etc. in KL, and then I spoke with a lot of agents there lah. So basically, that's the situation. So I'm just trying to provide perspective on why is it more difficult for Indians to find rooms to rent in Malaysia in general. So I'm just trying to do this, like from a commercial perspective, like why this is the situation. Anyway, because this is also an impromptu video, so my English is not that fluent, so I hope you can bear with my English fluency because I just speak for my mind. I just speak, impromptu, so it's not like I write down the script and then I try to speak. Yeah, so it's indeed more difficult for Indians to rent rooms or houses in Malaysia. So what can we do to alleviate this situation? My opinion is that only the Indians can save themselves because in Malaysia, the government don't even care about the Chinese, so why should they care about the Indians, right? I mean they still care, but they just care about it at the bare minimum. I don't think the government is going to step in and interfere the housing market because they will offend the Malays, they will offend the Chinese, etc. Okay, one thing with Indians is that there is this statistical perception about Indians that Indians will cause more troubles, like Indians will fight, Indians that are gangsters, Indians will drink the alcohol and then they get drunk and then they cause a lot of troubles, or they will cook a lot of curry. Okay, like it or not, right? Okay, I'm saying this to the Indian friends, like it or not, this is the statistical perception about the Indians. So I'm not saying that all Indians are like that. I believe that many Indians are decent, well-educated, nice people, much nicer than the Malays or Chinese. But the statistical perception still exists. That means that there is a lot of Chinese or Malay people who believe that Indians are statistically more able to cause trouble. So from a purely commercial perspective, because in the commercial world, people don't care about the wokeism in US, because this is not the US, this is Malaysia. So this country is very politically incorrect. In fact, the political correctness that you see in other countries are considered politically incorrect in this country. So the politically incorrect in other countries are in fact considered the political correctness in this country. So that is why this country is very special, this country is very unique. And so the Indians in Malaysia can only accept this unique feature of Malaysia. So that is why Indians are having a harder time to find rooms to rent in Malaysia. Because let's say, right, if you have one unit, then if this unit got Indians inside, then maybe other Chinese or Malay tenants don't want to move in, then that will give the property agent a hard time. So that is why this is the situation. So my humble opinion is that as an individual Indian can only try to behave themselves better, give themselves a better image. For example, if the Indian guys are becoming more well-mannered, gentle, and then more handsome, like the Korean oppa that all the girls like it, then maybe Indians will have a better image. Then if the Indian girls are becoming more attractive, then maybe we will have fantasies, imaginations about the Indians, and maybe Indians will get more popular in the rental market. Then maybe, who knows, one day, right, if this particular housing unit can attract one Indian tenant, then all the other Chinese and Malay tenants are all desperate to move in because they want to live together with the Indian. The Indian is like considered more high class being. So because India is a minority in Malaysia, it's a very small minority in Malaysia. So Indians can only try to, how should I put it? Indians can only try to make themselves better so that they will become more desired tenants in Malaysia. That's all I can suggest, because right now in Malaysia, the situation is just like this, and I don't think the government is going to interfere this discrimination in the rental market. So the market will just leave it to the free open hands of the market. Also, right? Okay, just now I'm more talking about the commercial perspective of the property agent companies when they rent one whole house. You know, they divide the one house into many rooms to rent rooms lah. So now I want to talk about the individual owner. Why some owners prefer to rent to certain races? Yeah, of course, some are racist. I mean, everyone is racist, but racism is even at a higher level in Malaysia. So maybe the Malays, the Muslims, they only want to rent their property to Muslims only because maybe, I don't know, maybe they believe that if they, I don't know, maybe they just want to preserve the Muslim or Islamic characteristics of their property unit, or they just want to focus on the Malay market because it's easier and then the market is big enough for them. So I think that is also the situation for many Chinese owners, many Chinese landlords, because normally it's easier to communicate with your own race because I okay, from what I have seen, I believe that many Chinese landlords, they feel that it's easier for them to communicate with Chinese tenants. It's easier to deal with, and then no matter how bad the situation is, they know how to deal with. They know, you know, they know how to deal lah. Because they also don't want the situation to become like they need to go to the police station. Because right, say in Malaysia, right, let's say if you rent to a Malay tenant, then if anything happens, then you all want to go to court or go to police station. Do you think you will be at an advantage or disadvantage? Okay, I know maybe this is not applicable to the Indians, but the Chinese people also don't want to have all this funny issue with the Indian tenant, and then it's very difficult to deal. Maybe if there are some very bad situation that occurs, then maybe the policemen in Malaysia, they also don't care because they have more serious issues to attend to. So basically, all those Chinese landlords, they just want the rental income. So they just want to have an easy life collecting rentals because they invest in properties to make money, not to be a charity organization. So they don't care about political correctness. So, and also, right, in those cities like KL, JB, etc., the Chinese tenants market is big enough for them to just focus on the Chinese market. So that is why you see many Malaysian Chinese YouTubers, they just speak in Mandarin, they just focus on the Chinese market because it's also not that easy to explore other more exotic markets. Yeah, so basically, I think I'm also not really offering any constructive suggestions for the Malaysian Indians community. So basically, I think they can only rely on themselves. Maybe when the Indians become richer, they own more properties, then they can focus on their own Indian market. I mean, that's all I can say. So basically, in Malaysia, we all have to rely on ourselves because the government doesn't care about us. Yeah, so that's a video for today.